Is Trump racist or misunderstood?
I'm the least racist person there is in the world.
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones, you see? That's how far I've come.
Okay, so who will you be voting for in 2024? Daryl.
We've all seen the mugshot. You know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible. You see black people walking around with my mugshot.
What do you see as the significance of African American men in this election?
Thank you, everybody.
For both of you.
I see them identifying with Trump.
Why do you say that?
Because they got RICO charges.
Oh, baby, we love Trump. We need him back in office.
Well, you know, Donald Trump is what Americans love. Donald Trump is what Americans aspire to be.
I got something I want to show y'all. So we gonna keep this interesting.
Y'all
see it?
Yeah, it's an autographed Trump hat. Did that come with the party?
Okay, not. Yeah, most deaf.
Come on up, fellas. Rapper Sleepy Hollow. Hey. Oh, I like that. I want to get that done.
President Trump,
Say something,
man.
please.
Trump gonna shout the wins for all of us. Make America great.
But once he started getting black people out of jail and giving people their free money, oh, baby, we love Trump. We need him back in office.
We will be taking a closer look at where the free money actually came from, and you might be surprised. We are also going to take a look at the pardons Trump gave out. You may be shocked to learn what actually happened.
America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer, greater, and more united than ever before.
Ever since the horrible and unfortunate situation,
Take a look at what happened.
there appears to be a cultural shift in support for Trump, which Trump seemingly welcomes with open arms. It's obviously no secret that politics are highly strategic, which raises the question, is Trump genuine in his promises of unity, or is this just a political strategy? One thing is clear, the current climate is much different than it was during his presidency. But why? In this video, we will take a closer look at Trump's attachment to racism. Has he perhaps been misunderstood and the racist accusations weren't actually factual? Or has he now been forgiven and genuine in uniting the country? Or is there more at play? 24. This Daily Show panel was asked who they would vote for in 2024. The answers were split down the middle.
Who are you going to discriminate against?
Not at all. It's not one side. It's the legal.
Take a look back at some of the events that raised the question of racism. Again, these actions could be racist or misunderstandings. You can decide for yourself. Click subscribe and get in the comments with your thoughts.
President Trump took his attacks on 4 Democratic lawmakers to a raucous campaign rally in North Carolina last night. His supporters chanted, "Send her back," echoing the president's racist tweet that the 4 women of color should go back to the countries where they came from.
The president's supporters in North Carolina turned his racist tweet into a rallying cry after an extended attack on Representative Ilhan Omar.
She looks down with contempt on the hardworking Americans, saying that ignorance is pervasive in many parts of this country.
Omar responded to the president's attacks and the crowd's chants in a series of tweets last night. She quoted poet Maya Angelou, saying, "You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise." The president kept up his attacks on the so-called squad.
Talib, Presley, Cortez. Somebody said that's not her name. I don't have time to go with 3 different names. We'll call her Cortez.
The president is highlighting the 4 liberal freshman lawmakers in an effort to make them the faces of the Democratic Party ahead of 2020.
Their comments are helping to fuel the rise of a dangerous, militant hard left.
Trump supporters we spoke to before the rally agree with the president's approach.
I like it because it seems to work. You see all these people out here. I mean, he's got a lot of following.
Everything is so freaking touchy with all of them. They have no sense of humor. They have no common sense. I'm sorry, just a bag of idiots.
This style of gender and cultural-based attacks were not new to Trump's playbook. Taking a step back a bit further, we see how Trump raised baseless questions on President Obama. Was this racist or fair game in the political world?
I'd like to have him show his birth certificate And can I be honest with you? I hope he can. Because if he can't, and if he wasn't born in this country, which is a real possibility, I'm not saying it happened, I'm saying it's a real possibility, much greater than I thought 2 or 3 weeks ago, then he has pulled one of the great cons in the history of politics. Was it a birth certificate? You tell me. You know, some people say that was not his birth certificate. So maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
You don't believe it was his birth certificate?
No, I don't know. I'm saying I don't know.
Before we fact check a few things and try to understand how things shifted,
They offered me $500,000 to go.
They offered you $500,000 to play at the inauguration?
No, just to come. All money is not good money. You got to be careful. Don't bring me to fix the African American vote. Bring somebody else. I see them identifying with Trump.
let's first take a look at a few more significant events. August 11th and 12th, 2017. A group of white supremacists and far-right extremists gathered to protest the removal of a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. The rally kicked off with a torch-lit march on the University of Virginia campus. Participants chanted racist and anti-Semitic slogans, setting a chilling tone for what was to come. The next day, tensions boiled over. Violent clashes broke out between rally-goers and counter-protesters. The situation turned deadly when a white supremacist drove his car into a crowd of counter-protesters. Tragically, 32-year-old Heather Heyer was killed and 19 others were injured. This horrific event shocked the nation. The response from political leaders, especially Trump, who blamed both sides for the violence, sparked widespread outrage. The Charlottesville rally brought to light the deep racial and political divisions in America and ignited a fierce debate over Confederate symbols and their place in public spaces.
The fallout from the weekend's clash in Charlottesville has dominated the day's news again. It came in new criticism of President Trump and in words of praise for a woman who was run down by a car.
In Charlottesville today, hundreds of people gathered to remember Heather Heyer at a downtown theater, just blocks from where the 32-year-old was killed as she protested Saturday's white nationalist rally.
Did I ever tell you how much I loved you? Heather, when my children ask me who I admire most, I will tell them you.
President Trump called her a truly special young woman. The firestorm over Mr. Trump's ricocheting response to the violent confrontation spread. More CEOs quit Trump administration advisory councils. With even additional resignations likely, Mr. Trump moved preemptively. Rather than putting pressure on the business people of the Manufacturing Council and Strategy and Policy Forum, I am ending both. But lawmakers from both parties condemned equating the white nationalists who organized Saturday's rally and counter-protesters, many Republicans never mentioning the president's name. Former Presidents George Bush, father and son, issued a joint statement. America must always reject racial bigotry, anti-Semitism, and hatred in all forms. Mindful of Saturday's confrontation, Baltimore officials ordered the overnight removal of statues of Confederate leaders in the interest of public safety.
Donald Trump on Tuesday said both sides were to blame for the clashes in Virginia over the weekend, adding that protesters on the political left violently attacked white nationalists rallying against the decision to remove a Confederate statue.
There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, or you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
On both sides, sir, you said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either.
Trump would receive backlash for not condemning the actions and would go on to double down.
I still think there were very fine people on both sides in Charlotte.
Well, I've answered that question, and if you look at what I said, you will see that that question was answered perfectly. And I was talking about people that went because they felt very strongly about the monument to Robert E. Lee, a great general, whether you like it or not. He was one of the great generals. I've spoken to many generals here, right at the White House, and many people thought of the generals. They think that he was maybe their favorite general. People were there protesting the taking down of the monument of Robert E. Lee. Everybody knows that.
When Congressman Elijah Cummings calls you a racist,
your reaction is what?
Well, I think the word has really gone down a long way because everybody's called a racist now. Her own party called Nancy Pelosi a racist 2 weeks ago. The word is so overused, it's such a disgrace. And I can tell you, I'm the least racist person there is in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Although we have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas. But you know what? I like you because you are special.
In that very same meeting, the Times reports he said that once the 40,000 Nigerian immigrants given visas arrived in the U.S., they would never go back to their huts. The White House denies this report.
The Post reports that according to two people briefed in the meeting, the president asked, quote, "Why are we having all these people from shithole countries come here?" referring to African countries and Haiti. The president then went on to talk about how they needed to bring in more people from places like Norway.
In a new and truly stunning attack on his former White House aide and former primetime co-star Omarosa Manigat-Newman, this is what the president just wrote, quote, "When you give a crazed, crying lowlife a break and give her a job at the White House, I guess it just didn't work out. Good work by General Kelly for quickly firing that dog."
Given the history of events we've covered, it raises questions on if Trump has been misunderstood or if he is racist and people just don't care anymore. One way or the other, we are seeing a shift. Could Trump be paying off high-profile black celebrities through pardons and money with the hope that this will be enough to appeal to black people? Or is there a genuine shift being made in good faith? Before we take a look at a few of the talking points behind the shift, let's first take a look at how 50 Cent clearly changed his position on Trump.
Has any politician ever tried to sort of get your support? Have they ever courted you for support in the past?
Yeah, with Trump during inauguration. They offered me $500,000 to go. To be honest with you, all money is not good money. You got to be careful. Like, I just was like, whoa, bro. If you don't bring me to fix the African-American vote. Bring somebody else. I'll see you later, right?
Are you still happy you turned down $500,000 to make an appearance at the Trump campaign?
You were offered $500,000 to appear at an event for his campaign?
Money. That wasn't good money.
It was not good money.
Nah, what it would have done in that time period.
Right.
That's why they offered that.
Right. It's like, who offered it to you, the campaign?
Yeah.
Heading into another election, so have you made a decision about who you're going to support?
I'm not sure how to answer that question, to be honest with you.
Have you made a decision?
I haven't.
What do you see as the significance of African-American men in this election? Thank you, everybody. For both of you.
I see them identifying with Trump.
Why do you say that?
Because they got RICO charges.
So, Waz enjoys that. So that was 50 Cent, real name Curtis Jackson, on what he thinks about the election. And he references that black men identify with Donald Trump for 1,000 obvious reasons we all understand.
Hey, you know who we voting for? We voting Donald Trump, baby. Donald Trump, baby. America needs.
But Donald Trump was like the boss, you know what I mean? He's getting money. He's a rapper's dream, you know? He's out here now dodging bullets, getting indictments. He's a real rapper.
Professor Clarence Lusane, your response to the appeal that President Trump is making right now and what rapper Forgiato Blow is saying.
So what we see with Forgiato Blow and Amber Rose, as well as the black Congress members, Republican Congress members that they're bringing on stage, is this effort to basically gaslight the black community on what really has been the Donald Trump record. And so what we see is this argument that the Democrats have for decades created the circumstances under which black people are living in the worst conditions possible, and that somehow Donald Trump will be able to overcome that, although there's literally no record of that.
We look now at how Donald Trump is trying to increase his appeal with black voters. During the first presidential debate, Donald Trump slammed President Biden for allowing migrants into the country, claiming they're taking, quote, black jobs.
The fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
It's important to know that this idea of replacement theory, that whites are being threatened by these cultural invaders is something that the Donald Trump wing of the party has been using ever since Donald Trump stepped onto the national stage. The article I wrote in The Nation was to point out that we don't have to memory hold what Donald Trump's history of racism has been, but more importantly, also who has supported Donald Trump. Ever since he stepped onto this stage, every avowed racist in the country, Ku Klux Klanners, neo-Nazis, avowed fascists, have backed Donald Trump. And he's been able to get away with that kind of support because in many ways the media has evaded questioning him about that.
Trump suggested the problem was really anti-white racism. If you look right now, there's absolutely a bias against white people, and that's a problem, Trump said.
So Trump, again, is leaning into his base. And what the data is showing is that for at least the last 10 years or so, if not even before then, that a majority of whites, and particularly Republican voters, believe that racism in this country exists against white people, that black people, that Latinos, that Asians basically do not have issues with institutional or systemic racism, but it's actually whites that are being targeted.
In this clip, several points are used to justify support for Trump. Let's take a look and watch an excellent clip that lays out the truth behind these points.
At first, I don't think people was fucking with him like they thought he was racist, saying little shit and, you know, against women. But once he started getting black people out of jail and giving people their free money, oh, baby, we love Trump. We need him back in office.
Now, there ain't nary a poll that shows any kind of overwhelming black support for Donald Trump. It's marginal at best. According to an August poll conducted by The Economist and YouGov, an online market research firm, 18% of black people view Donald Trump favorably. That stimulus money that many of you received definitely wasn't free. Let me learn you right quick. The stimulus money didn't come from your 401k or your taxes or Social Security. And it damn sure didn't come from Donald Trump, even though his name was on the memo line of the check. It was the first time a president has ever done that in history. And the reason Donald Trump did it is because he knew folks like Sexy Red would be going out there and saying he personally gave them money. Now, I have to admit, that shit was kind of smart. Diabolical, but it was definitely smart. So where did the money come from? Actually, it came from the Treasury Department, and it was funded by the Federal Reserve, which prints our money. Now, the Treasury Department gave the Federal Reserve an IOU and basically said we good for it. And then it was added to our ever-expanding national debt. Now, eventually, we gonna all have to pay for that one way or another. Also, it was Congress who passed the stimulus package that helped Americans during the pandemic. Now, next up, Sexy Red said that Donald Trump got black people out of jail. Yes, it is true that Donald Trump signed the First Step Act, which was a bipartisan bill that addresses sentencing reform. It shortens federal prison sentences and gives federal prisoners additional chances to avoid mandatory minimum penalties. It also allows a judge to impose a sentence lower than the statutory minimum in some cases. 32 senators from both sides of the aisle sponsored this bill. But here's some key information, boys and girls. While in office, because of the First Step Act, Trump granted 28 pardons and commuted 16 sentences. By comparison, when Barack Obama was president, he used his executive authority to, let me check my notes here, grant 1,900 people clemency, the highest figure since Harry Truman's administration.
The following article outlines a timeline of racist accusations against Trump. These events occurred over several decades. The list you're about to hear is much different than the narrative of unity Trump is speaking today. It raises a question. Has Trump changed and genuine in his promises of unity? Is he truly for the people now, or is he a political culture vulture? 1973. The U.S. Department of Justice, under the Nixon administration, sued the Trump Management Corporation for violating the Fair Housing Act. Federal officials found evidence that Trump had refused to rent to black tenants and lied to black applicants about whether apartments were available, among other accusations. Trump said the federal government was trying to get him to rent to welfare recipients. 1980s. Kip Brown, a former employee at Trump's castle, accused another one of Trump's businesses of discrimination. When Donald and Ivana came to the casino, the bosses would order all the black people off the floor, Brown said. It was the 80s. I was a teenager, but I remember it. They put us all in the back. 1989. In a controversial case that's been characterized as a modern-day lynching, 4 black teenagers and 1 Latino teenager, the Central Park Five, were accused of attacking and raping a jogger in New York City. Trump immediately took charge in the case, running an ad in local papers demanding, "Bring back the death penalty, bring back our police." The teens' convictions were later vacated after they spent 7 to 13 years in prison, and the city paid $41 million in a settlement to the teens. But Trump in October 2016 said he still believes they're guilty, despite the DNA evidence to the contrary.
Mr. President, will you apologize to Central Park Five? They've been exonerated, there have been videos and movies shown about the case, and you came out with a full-page ad saying that they should die, that they should have the death penalty.
Why do you bring that question up now? It's an interesting time to bring it up. You have people on both sides of that. They admitted their guilt. If you look at Linda Fairstein and if you look at some of the prosecutors, they think that the city should never have settled that case. So we'll leave it at that.
For many, many years, I called it the criminal system of injustice because of what happened to me and people just like me. And when it came to Donald Trump, I was very, very clear. I wanted to make sure that people understood that I wanted him to be afforded the opportunity that was not afforded me or my brothers. They looked at the color of our skin and deemed us guilty in a country that says you're innocent until proven guilty. Whereas when you come to the court system and you have a person who has been privileged and has used their money to garner favor, now getting to understand what exactly the criminal legal system is all about. I wanted him to be able to feel that, to see that, to experience that. And I was proud that our jurors, 34 counts, but when you think about the 12 jurors, each of them looked at all of the counts and made a decision to find this man guilty.
1991, a book by John O'Donnell, former president of Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, quoted Trump's criticism of a black accountant. "Black guys counting my money. I hate it. The only kind of people I want counting my money are short guys that wear yarmulkes every day. I think that the guy is lazy, and it's probably not his fault because laziness is a trait in blacks. It really is. I believe that. It's not anything they can control." Trump later said in a 1997 Playboy interview that the stuff O'Donnell wrote about me is probably true. 1992, the Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino had to pay a $200,000 fine because it transferred black and women dealers off tables to accommodate a big-time gambler's prejudices. 1993, in congressional testimony, Trump said that some Native American reservations operating casinos shouldn't be allowed because they don't look like Indians to me. 2000, in opposition to a casino proposed by the St. Regis Mohawk tribe, which he saw as a financial threat to his casinos in Atlantic City, Trump secretly ran a series of ads suggesting the tribe had a record of criminal activity that is well documented. 2004, in season 2 of The Apprentice, Trump fired Kevin Allen, a black contestant, for being overeducated. "You're an unbelievably talented guy in terms of education, and you haven't done anything," Trump said on the show. "At some point, you have to say, that's enough." 2005, Trump publicly pitched what was essentially The Apprentice, white people versus black people. He said he wasn't particularly happy with the most recent season of his show, so he was considering an idea that is fairly controversial, creating a team of successful African Americans versus a team of successful whites. Whether people like that idea or not, it is somewhat reflective of our very vicious world. 2011, Trump played a big role in pushing false rumors that Obama, the country's first black president, was not born in the U.S. He claimed to send investigators to Hawaii to look into Obama's birth certificate. Obama later released his birth certificate, calling Trump a carnival barker. The research has found a strong correlation between birtherism, as the conspiracy theory is called, and racism. But Trump has reportedly continued pushing this conspiracy theory in private. 2011, while Trump suggested that Obama wasn't born in the U.S., he also argued that maybe Obama wasn't a good enough student to have gotten into Columbia or Harvard Law School, and demanded Obama release his university transcripts. Trump claimed, "I heard he was a terrible student." Terrible. How does a bad student go to Columbia and then to Harvard? One of the amazing qualities of mankind is our ability to recognize error in our ways, adapt and change who we are for the better. Has Trump changed for the better? What do you...
That's a long way, isn't it? We've all seen the mugshot. And you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The